Hello Baggies fans and welcome to another episode of the Baggies Podcast. It's actually episode 12 now. I'm sure you'll all realise what has happened yesterday. I'm sure none of you will be particularly happy about it. This month is a big month in terms of West Bromwich Albion. It's deadline day, I think that's next week, and we've also got some very winnable fixtures coming up, starting with today's game against Southampton. I'm recording this just after the game, so I'll be able to give you an insight into what exactly has gone on in our 2-0 defeat against Southampton, and then we'll move forward and see what we've got coming up the rest of the month, because it's a big month for Albion. If we don't start to get points in this vital month, then I can't see us staying up, because there are very winnable games, and starting with today's, which was winnable, but ended up not being so winnable. But we're going to talk more in depth about that. You guys have been giving us your thoughts as well. You've been tweeting us with what you thought of the game and what you think is needed before the end of the window, and we're going to chat through all that in this episode 12 of the Baggies Podcast. Let's get straight into it. The Baggies Podcast on YouTube, giving you the latest news, views and opinions on all things Albion. Join me every week for a new episode of the Baggies Podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. So obviously a very interesting game away at Southampton today. Not the best performance from the Baggies, nor from Southampton. Pretty average side Southampton. Nothing particularly special about them, I have to say. But still better than us today. Still better than us by a long chalk out there today. I have to, firstly, before we go into this, I'm always this man's harshest. Well, I say harshest, but I always give this man a good measure of criticism, and that is Sam Johnstone. And today I have to hold my hands up and say a really good performance from him. I thought he was quality. I thought he had a lot of good moments in the game. I mean, I don't think there was much he could have done about either of the goals. Sam Johnstone, a very good performance for me. Quite a lot of saves, quite a lot of good getting down to his left and right to make saves. Something which I've criticised him for over the past week. Actually, against Chelsea, I criticised him for that. But I have to, hold my hands up and say he's had a really good game today. And yeah, let's just read out some of his stats. So he played 90 minutes, conceded 2 goals, obviously, 6 saves, 3 diving saves, 4 saves inside the box, 2 sweeps, 1 punch, 4 throws. So, it's a really decent performance, quite involved, probably the most involved out of the players on the pitch, really. Overall, Southampton, they were all right. They were compact, they were nice, and they liked to control the possession when they could. They liked to move the ball around pretty quickly and just wait for openings, and that's exactly what happened, really. A goal from Moussa Djenepo just before half-time settled off the game. Adams and Ings linked up, and Ings tried to sort of play it over to Adams, and it ended up deflecting for Djenepo, who turned away and scored past Johnstone. Then after half-time, at the 69th minute, the ball was played over by Armstrong, and Romeu, he went to tackle Diangana, I think, or just get a toe on the ball past Diangana, and ended up getting a big toe on the ball, and the ball ended up just flying into the net. So it was a fantastic goal, really, in the end from Romeu. Yeah, it's just frustrating, because there was a lot of areas of the pitch where we were pretty bad in today. I have to criticise the midfield. Neither Jake Livermore or Romain Sawyers really stealing the show at all. The latter was pretty awful, I'm afraid. Sawyers, he has his moments. I've said it consistently, we need some energy and drive in that midfield. He seems too casual, too a bit laid back for me. Sawyers, I like him, I like his neatness of play, but the amount he got caught on the ball, Ward-Prowse, Stuart Armstrong, I have to give credit to him, he had a really good game today. A lot of running involved in his performance, the same with Oriol Romeu. They were a really good engine. It's not a fantastic Southampton side, but it's just annoying how they've beaten us, because I can see, I can match up a few of our players and say that some of our players are better than theirs and some of theirs are better. It's an evenly matched team. We've ended up making it look less evenly matched. You look at the stats, 62% possession for Southampton compared to our 38. 13 shots for Southampton compared to our 5. 10 chances created compared to our 3. So much dictation of play, so much, assertiveness to go and get a win out there today, Southampton, which we just didn't show. It's just sort of a lack of quality a lot of the time. There's lots of lots of different points in the game which we could have done more about. Sawyers, for me, I'm going to go back to him, and I have to give him some criticism here. I do like the player. I like him as a lad. Local boy, got a huge chance here to play in the Premier League, and he's not really grasping it with two hands. He's not going to get the time on the ball with hungry teams like Southampton. They're going to get round him. They're going to try and stop him. They know what he's about. They know if you give him the time, he'll pick a pass out. He'll dawdle on the ball, and he likes as much time. So you know what Premier League players are doing? They're just running around him. I remember what happened. This is a bit of a harsh comparison from Romain Sawyers, but Gareth Barry, when he came up against Middlesbrough, I think it was last season or the season before last. And we know Gareth Barry as a guy who likes to, if he was harried or if he's hurried or whatever, and if people are hustling him to get the ball, he doesn't like it, and he ended up giving it away, and that's where he looks, and then he ends up chasing back, and that's when he looks a bit, off. And I can compare that to Romain Sawyers. Middlesbrough got round Gareth Barry in that game, and they got right around him, and they managed to nick the ball off him almost every time. And they've done the same with Romain Sawyers today. It's just the loss of possession a lot. It's just, when you're a midfield player and you're dispossessed 4 times in the game, nothing really that. Nothing that hard. Like, if you're Southampton in midfield, you've hardly had to, really tussle with Romain Sawyers to get the ball off him. It's just sort of a poke past it. He's dawdling the ball, you just poke the ball past him, and then you're off. Yeah, it's just Livermore has to be criticised as well, I'm afraid. Not really up to scratch. I love his enthusiasm. I love his grit and determination, but he certainly didn't cover himself in glory today at all. Not really up to it, either of the midfielders today. But there are a lot of players who, perhaps didn't pull their weight in today's game. It's not just Sawyers. Sawyers, he does get singled out a lot for his poor performances. Sometimes rightly so, sometimes not so rightly so. Today I feel like it is rightly so. But there's a few others that, didn't cover themselves in glory. Robinson wasn't great, if I'm being honest. Neither was Carl Edwards. Carl Edwards wasn't fantastic. He still had a decent game. It's his Premier League debut, his first ever Premier League start. You do have to bear that in mind. Bartley Ajayi, not fantastic, but okay at best. Pereira and Diangana didn't really turn on the magic like they perhaps did last week. Same with like Robinson. We didn't really test McCarthy as much as we really should have. I think he made 3 saves in that game, and you look at what Johnston made. Johnston made 6, so their goalkeeper made half the saves that ours did. So that says a lot about how we played and how we didn't really get up the pitch. Krovinovic made his second debut, came on really tidy, looked quite tidy. Just trying to, he's always got that enthusiasm. That's why he's always one that I'd pick. I'd perhaps have picked him next week instead of Edwards, and I'd certainly pick either Sam Field or, in fact, the lad Conor Gallagher. I think Conor Gallagher, I've seen on Twitter that he may have been ruled out for personal circumstances, personal reasons. Which is okay. That's perfectly fine. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But yeah. It's just not the situation you want to be in. Hopefully next week not next week, after the international break, we might be okay. It's just a bit awful in the end. We've gone and lost easily, really. It looked a bit too comfortable for Southampton. There's lots of people saying Bilic out. I wouldn't ever get rid of Bilic. It's the board. Surely you've got to see that the board haven't put enough money in to get stuff out. I'd love to see Grant in very soon. Hopefully developments are coming on. People saying Sawyers shouldn't be to blame. Sawyers is to blame sometimes, but he sometimes deserves a bit of slack because he gets it a lot. There were some poor players on the pitch today. In fact, it was an overall poor team performance. I can't really single people out. Sawyers is the one that people go to, and he's the one that I've been to today because the game is won and lost in the the game is won and lost in the in the midfield, and that's where you've got to look at first. And then maybe your defence wasn't great today again. Up front as well, it's a collective problem. It's not just singling out, I'm afraid. But Sawyers, for me, didn't have a great game, but it's not all his fault, but he certainly didn't help the team today enough as he should have. That's why I'd like to see Gallagher coming in next week. After the international break, I feel like he's going to bring a bit of energy to the midfield. He showed a lot of tenacity in that game against Brentford, which I really liked. I really liked the way he conducted himself, and he certainly did give 100% in that game against Brentford. It was when he lost the ball once, and he went straight back after it. He was herring after it, and he ended up making a sliding challenge, where he won the ball back straight away. It's just that, for me, gives me a lot of encouragement that he's going to be a good player for West Bromwich Albion, and I do hope he gets the start that he so rightly deserves very soon. For me, he deserves a start, and so does perhaps Krovinovic next game. If we play the same formation, I'd love to see Hegazi back involved. Not in the squad today. I just can't help but feel like his time's done. I don't want it to be done. He's literally one of my favourite players in the side. He's apparently been injured, but that's been mixed with the fact that if he plays another couple of games, he has a wage increase, which I don't know why you would leave your best centre-back out of the game. It just confuses me a little bit. But yeah, for me, Hegazi is one of our best centre-backs at the club. Him and Semi have to start alongside each other. I might want to try Branislav Ivanovic out maybe in one of the games, but for me, Hegazi has to play, even if it means you pay a bit of extra money for him every week. So, again, for me, Gallagher has to get into the side next week. So does Krovinovic. Understandable if Gallagher's away for personal reasons, but I can't see why he wouldn't be in the squad. But yeah, not the best performance from West Brom. However, some transfer news coming in, and that is with regards to Karlan Grant, and obviously we signed Filip Krovinovic earlier in the week, which was fantastic. But yeah, we've had some developments with Karlan Grant, saying that we're plotting one final bid for him. It's just, silly, really, that it's gone on this long. He's been a top target. Bilic has said he's a top target for the past 5 weeks or so, and stuff like that. It's been going on for long enough now. I'm not sure what's going on from behind the scenes, but Karlan Grant needs to become a West Brom player, and we need to get him into the side. He needs to get into the side and make a difference for us. Yeah, it's just ridiculous how it's gone on this long. Apparently we reopened talks. 16 million plus add-ons is what they want. We just want to give them 16 million. I honestly don't care at this point if it sends our Chinese owners bust. I just want the player. We need the player. The fans want the player. We're sick of waiting around, really. Everyone is, and we need the player ASAP. In my opinion, it needs to happen. Yeah, apparently we are just not going to pay the price for Grant. It just doesn't. I just feel like the owners aren't going to go bust or anything. They don't want to spend the money on us. They've got so many other businesses. We're probably one of the least of their priorities, and I feel like we need to be more of it. It's just awful that the fact that we aren't going to at the moment go into the season with a striker. It's the 4th week of the Premier League season, and surely we've seen that is one of the things that we need, probably along with a fullback as well, if we can, maybe even a backup striker. If we can get that lad Diallo on loan behind Grant, that'll be a fantastic window. In the end, considering budget and constraints, or supposed constraints, it wouldn't be such a bad window. But at the moment, it's looking pretty dire. I mean, the signing of Diangana has shot everybody's expectations through the roof. Nobody thought that was going to be happening, but it has, and everybody's pretty pleased with that at the moment. He's done a good job in a few of the games. Not so great today. Did make a bit of a mistake in the lead up to the Southampton goals, but other than that, he's been a pretty decent signing. So you have to hope that we're going to bring in the players that are going to take us forward as a team rather than backwards, and you just have to hope that it comes around very quickly. I think maybe another loan deal needs to be in progress. Surely there's a fullback in one of the higher up teams that needs a bit of game time that we can give him, something like that. but hopefully it happens for West Brom and we get the players we need, because at the moment it doesn't look like we're going to stay up. I'm not sure if we are in the relegation zone still, but I will check that out now immediately. I wasn't completely sure whether we were still in, whether we were out of it. We're still out of the relegation zone, but at the moment we are. Lots of teams struggling around us. Man United are the team above us as well, after their terrible 5-1 loss, 6-1 loss against Tottenham. I mean, they're not doing well at all. Leeds, you have to take a model from Leeds and look at this fantastic play that they play. It's just the hunger and desire of Leeds. It's completely unparalleled to ours. But anyway, it's time to read your guys' responses, and let's see what you guys thought of today's game and the transfer window. So the first question I asked you guys was, sum up today's game against Southampton. The second one was, what's needed in the side before deadline day? 3, what changes would you make for next week's game at Burnley? So C. Hawthorns has tweeted us and said, okay, for the first 20 minutes, once the first goal went in, it never looked like getting back into it. Number 2, pretty obvious really, but 2 or 3 quality additions, including at least one striker. The back line is nowhere near resilient enough for the Premier League. Absolutely. And number 3, Sawyers needs to take a break from start, and he gets caught in possession every game. The coaches must work on this surely. He won't have any time on the ball in this league. Not sure on the lineup for Burnley, but Branislav Ivanovic needs to come in, and new striker up top with 2 up front. I definitely have to agree with Sawyers needing a break. I think he just needs a couple of weeks where he's not the main midfielder. So at the moment he's just being subject to abuse because he's just not playing well enough, and it's surely not going to be good for him as a player and for his confidence, because he's being made the player that's not been the player that's ruining the games. I wouldn't say he's been the worst player in the team at all, the reason that we lost, at all. But he certainly has contributed to it with his poor performance. So in my opinion, he needs a bit of a break from the team. He needs a bit of time away from the side. Not out the squad, on the bench maybe, bring in Field or Gallagher for him, and then maybe just slowly getting back into the side. I think he needs to realise that his place isn't fixed in the team. The only players I think whose places are fixed in the team is probably Ajayi, Livermore, Pereira. I think their places are pretty much fixed in the side, and maybe even Johnston at the moment. I can't see him changing him out. But he needs to realise that his place, even though he is a fantastic footballer and he is a local lad, and people seem to like his passion for the club, but at the moment that passion is not being exerted on the pitch, so he needs to get that in his head. Paul Garbutt has tweeted us in and saying, an uninspiring, gutless and pointless performance. Number 2, he wants 2 strikers, and number 3, take Sawyers out of the squad altogether and inject grit and pace into the midfield. I wouldn't say out the squad altogether. I'd probably say onto the bench. Absolutely right, Paul. I'd bring in Gallagher or Field. One of them I know is going to do a fantastic job, and I know he's going to give us 100%. But yeah, thank you for you guys getting involved in the Twitter. Make sure you go and follow us on Twitter at the Baggies Pod if you got time for that. But if you have enjoyed the podcast today, make sure you go and drop a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify or YouTube, and make sure you like the video if you're watching on YouTube. And let me know if you want to see more YouTube content coming very soon, if you want to check that out and you want to suggest some things that you want to see on the channel. But anyway, if you have enjoyed the podcast, make sure to drop a follow, a like. Make sure to go and follow on Twitter at the Baggies Pod, always looking for guests to come on the podcast and to come and talk all things Albion. So if you have enjoyed it, make sure you like and follow the podcast, and we'll see you next time. Come on, you Baggies. I suppose it's International Week next week, so we won't have any games to look, but we'll certainly find something to talk about. It'll probably be deadline day. But we'll see you next time. Goodbye.